Hi everybody, welcome to CHILIpulse. CHILIpulse is our podcast where we talk about actionable insights on all things Chili graphics. And today I have the honor to have the great Pat with me. Hi Pat.
Bram, how are you?
I'm good. And Pat is our senior content writer at Chili Publish, but he has way more tricks under his sleeve than only the copywriting and the content writing. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm good. When you said tricks, because I used to be an English teacher, so I have tricks up my sleeve. And yes, unfortunately, I had one trick up my sleeve that recently came back and bit me in another area of my body. So, and maybe we're going to talk about that in just a second. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. Today is a bit of an Inception podcast. We're going a bit behind the scenes because we have been making a few of these podcasts. I think this will be episode 20, so it's time to look back a little bit. And part of creating the podcast is also the graphics that go with it. The thumbnail for YouTube, the thumbnail for Spotify, the email banner graphics that we use. So at a certain point, they need to be created. So, and I think that's also where suddenly you got involved. So maybe you can start off with that part of the story.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, for my sins, one of the things I used to do was be an Adobe instructor, and it's been about 10 or 12 years since I did that work. But anyway, it's skills that I sort of thought I still had. And we had this need to produce for these CHILIpulse episodes. So it's all going to get a bit meta here for a second. So this CHILIpulse episode, just like the last ones that people might have seen or heard online, we put out little pieces of marketing collateral to publicize what we're doing, right? So it goes out on Spotify, goes out on YouTube, goes out on through an email banner. There's a couple of other ones as well. I'll show them to you in a minute, okay? Anyway, so basically, sounds very simple, right? Okay, so we're going to have to produce sort of 5 different graphics, something like that, to advertise each CHILIpulse episode. But each CHILIpulse episode is different, right? And so we've got to make the graphics obviously 5 times. Each CHILIpulse episode has a different speaker. So you've got to have a different headshot in these graphics. Each CHILIpulse episode has different titles, different bits of text, all of that. So those have also got to be changed. And so what happened was we had a need for somebody to basically put these graphics together. One of our internal guys in the marketing department, Luca, heard about the fact I used to do these tools. I mentioned it in passing one day. And he said, "Do you think you could help?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, sure, I can help," because I'd forgotten just how lugubrious and difficult graphic production processes can actually be. I write about it every day, but my real world experience was now sort of somewhere behind me. And so I was thinking, it's going to be fine. He'll just send me the Illustrator stuff. I'll throw it together. Take me 5 minutes, press the export button, bam, and I'll get back to doing my real work, which is writing content for Chili Publish. And guess what? That's not how it played out at all, right? 4 hours later, I'd had to go and install Illustrator for a start, right? Then I got Illustrator installed, then I get the brief from Luca, and part of it came through Bert as well. And then I was looking at it, this doesn't make sense. I got to go back to them. Why are you using this title here, that title there? Have you got the image for this guy? Because I'm going to have to put it into this Illustrator document. Man, the title doesn't fit in this particular format over here. Just all this stuff you hear, anybody who works in design or graphic production knows what I'm talking about. Just, it was all there. Like, again, it's very meta because it's kind of what we do. It was all there right in front of me, just saying, this is going to take at least half a day to produce, to produce 5 or 6 graphics. And I was like, oh man. So I think you then got wind of this conversation.
Yeah, indeed. I got wind of that conversation and I said, okay, but guys, what are we making? We are making a platform for graphics automation to create graphics at scale.
Yeah.
So why are we doing this in another platform? And it's perfectly fine that these things start off in InDesign or Illustrator because that's where a designer starts. But then the next step is to automate it. So that's indeed what we did. If you can walk us through the original Illustrator file,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and see how that was built and then how that we translated that.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start sharing my screen and we can have a look at what I got as a brief, more or less. So let me see, share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I see
Okay,
your screen.
my very minimalist screen. Okay, so let's go across to Illustrator and I'll show you what we're talking about here. So, Adobe Illustrator, I'm sure it's familiar to a lot of people watching this. If you're listening, basically what I've done is I've opened up a screen of Illustrator and we've got 6 artboards in our screen. Okay, let me just tab out there and just fit this in. Okay, so you can see it. And each artboard represents one of the different graphics that we needed to produce, right? So we had one which was an intro video, which goes to a guy called Thomas. And this sort of goes on the sort of, if you like, the splash screen of the video. We have one for Spotify, one for YouTube, one for the blog, one for email banners, and then one for email signatures. Now, you can see they're all different sizes. You know, for example, the Spotify one is square. And you can see also that the text in many cases is a slightly different size. Okay, one or two instances on this particular template, I actually also changed the text just because I was at my wit's end trying to get things to work, right? But this is the problem because, you know, in some ways Luca is the sort of, you know, the instigator of this project. He knows what's going on, right? He knows what it's meant to be, how it's meant to be written, all of that. I was just kind of throwing things together, and so I had to keep going back to Luca and say, hey man, you know, like you got something you can help me with here, like, you know, I need to change this quote here, but I don't have the quote because I don't have the transcript of the video, all of these things. And then it was like, you know, do you have a high res picture of this guy, because we only have a whole low res one or whatever it was, you know, to basically fill in, you know, when each, as you can see, when I zoom in on one, you know, we have a picture of Bram smiling and we have a picture of whoever the guest speaker is. And so, you know, we needed to get those pictures, we needed to knock out the backgrounds, we needed to somehow put them into this document. A lot of things going on. For somebody who also, to be honest, hadn't taught an Illustrator class for over 12 years, it was quite challenging. But that was only really the start of it, because once I had this sort of brief that sounded like it was going to be very simple, but very quickly became complicated, I then had this Illustrator document where, for example, I'd get, you know, I'd receive this picture of this guy, Chris, as a, I think it comes in, well, it'd have to be a PNG if it's got a, you know, a knocked out background. And then I had to sort of work out where it goes in each file. Now, Illustrator can be quite a complex beast. So I bring up again the side panel here. I spent some time tidying this file, but, you know, when I got it, it was a little bit, it has sort of evolved over time. And so I was sort of saying, okay, how do I get a new person into this particular area? So I do this whole thing where you click through the isolation mode. Come in here, you go, okay, this is the Spotify one. God, which one is it? You know, go in the clipping path. Maybe it's this one. And then, you know, you've got to go and get your other image, somehow place it in here, get it into the right group, in the right position with the clipping path above it, in order to get it to sort of like, you know, be in the correct location in the file to get this nice sort of blending mode over the top of it, right? So that was an issue. Luca, of course, got in touch, sent me the text, but you've heard it all before, didn't send me the fonts, and so I didn't have the fonts. All right, so I had to go back and say, hey, where did we get the fonts? Oh, well, you know, we've licensed them, so they must be somewhere, right? Okay, another 30 minutes of my day, etc., etc. And it went on and on. And, you know, I was like, you know, okay, man, I'll do this for you once. And I think I've now done 6 of them. Okay, so, and so if you multiply that by the hours it takes me, now maybe a, you know, highly skilled Illustrator user would do this a little bit faster, but still, it's somewhat tiresome to.
But there you mentioned highly skilled. You said you were an instructor, so
Yeah.
this file has been growing with several people. To give it a bit of credit, is there a way to do this better in Illustrator without going? Of course, we will have to talk about CHILI GraFx in a moment, but just to give it credit, is there a way to structure this file better in Illustrator to accomplish this?
As I know it, no. I mean, it's already well structured. If you look at it,
Yeah,
we've got the artboards, right? So that was an innovation in Illustrator, you know, more than 12 years ago, was that, you know, different projects might have the same assets. It's something like you might see in Figma as well. And so
yeah,
you'll have a different artboard or layout or whatever they call it in Figma. I'm not quite sure. Where you do okay, this is the responsive. This is what it's going to look like on a mobile phone. This is what it's going to
Yeah.
look like on a laptop with a certain screen resolution.
And just to get a ballpark figure, if let's say you spend some time getting your way around this file, how long would it then take to update all of this to get all the right outputs?
Okay, realistically, it's going to take me several hours, right? And
Yeah.
anybody said, "Why you just go and get the image, stick it in, right?" Okay, I have to get the text from Luca. I have to read the text and say, is that going to fit, right? I have to try the text. If the text doesn't fit, I've then got to go back to him. I've then got to get the high-res image from somewhere. Very often Luca doesn't have it, so we go online. Maybe we even use AI to upscale the image a little bit, bring it back in. I have to check, obviously, because I'm more of a writer these days, I have to check all of the content is okay, is the person's name correct? So there's a lot of little sort of proofing things that Luca knows because he's the owner of the brief that I don't know. And so, once I've got that and I know actually really what I'm doing, then to put the images in, to put them in each correct place, with their blending modes, to put the text in place, to play around with the text, to try and squeeze it in, to go back to Luke and say, hey man, I had to change the text a little bit. Is this okay? Are you cool with this? To get his sign off, then to take the files, then to export them, then to upload those files to Luca, and then for him to look at them and go, man, you've made a typo here, and then go back, do it again. Easily 2 hours, easily.
Yeah.
Possibly a lot longer, to be honest, but it just depends on
Yeah,
the
indeed.
particular
Too
project.
too long to enjoy it.
Too long to enjoy it when, it's really, it's a cliche, but my work is more sort of in the creative content, right, area.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing this, I don't want to be doing this sort of repetitive,
Yeah.
repeat sort of graphic production tasks. When I know, because I write about it every day, that this type of thing can and should be automated for efficiency, for cost savings, and for my sanity, and I'm sure a lot of other graphic designers' sanity as well.
Is that the main reason what we do to allow you to keep your sanity?
There's not much of it left, so we definitely want to,
That's why we need to
whatever we
safeguard
can.
what's
Yeah.
left.
Okay.
So that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
We took this file because this has been designed by a design agency, but what we do is we allow people to create at scale.
Yeah.
So why don't we do it ourselves? And what you see here is CHILI GraFx, our
Yeah.
platform. We're in the environment where we have some of the demo files.
Right.
And one of the files are prepared for this episode. Is of course the file that we use to show how we output for ourselves.
Okay.
What you see here, and let me start by the default layout,
Right.
it's similar to what you have, is the design of all the graphics output we have for these episodes and for all the other episodes. Very similar to what you have seen in Illustrator are the artboards. And also for the listeners, we have a concept called layout, which is very similar. It's the output intent and the output size. And these can also inherit from each other without going too much detail. So basically you start off with a basic design, and then you can have a design that is based on the previous design. And it has very similar, it has all the same elements that we saw in the file that you were having. It has a logo, it has a background, it has the very nice picture of the both of us. It has a title that we might need to change because that is a title of a previous episode. And then it has our names in there, and maybe we need to update the titles. And it has all these layouts. Again, this one is a Spotify thumbnail. Then we have the YouTube thumbnail. We have a blog banner that we use, and it's slightly different, but it's because that's how it was designed. We even have a video intro where we can play an animation. So that this can be output as an animation to be used as an intro for the video.
So that was text sliding in from the left-hand side. I mean, I'm assuming that the images could also slide in from somewhere if we wanted them to, right? Or
Yeah, and it's every individual frame that you can select and then apply an animation on it and
Right.
say, look, this in the intro has to slide in from the top, from the left with a little bounce. And here on the bottom line, you see a timeline. The slide in for that frame with the names takes a second. And if you look at it, the intro, it eases in and scales from 400%. So that's what it does, no more, no less. And it scales from 400% to, and again, it is however you want to design it.
Nice. Huh?
The good thing is because you said I had to dig down into the to the Illustrator files and all the individual elements. What is also important in creating at scale, and in this case, it is intended to do self-service to allow people to change it themselves without having to go into this file, and I'll show you in a second.
Sorry, you just said self-service as in Luca self-service?
Yes, that is the goal, so that that Luca can contact you for what you like. That is the content writing. So
Yeah.
indeed, that Luca can take that smart content and put it in the template himself. So maybe let me show you the end result before we go back into the file itself. There is a concept called My Projects, and what we have is we have collections of templates, and one of them is CHILIpulse. So
Okay, so
basically what Luca and anybody in the marketing team can do is go into CHILIpulse, and then you see exactly the same templates. Select the output, it's a video start, and then start filling in some names. For example, the title, Boost Design Workflows, that's not what we do. This episode could be made scale by design. And then what was the subtitle we wanted to show? I will need to take a look because I forgot it for now. So I'll leave it open, just scale by design. And you see also that it's,
updating in real time, isn't it?
yeah, it's
So,
editing in real time, and it also has copy fitting. So if I have less title, it makes it a bit bigger. And then my name and title is okay. Your name is okay, I guess, senior content writer at Chili Publish.
yeah,
And then, yeah,
content copy, whatever. Yeah, you could change it to copy, just so we can see this.
senior copywriter.
Really, it's content, but I
So you
think
can change it in real time. And the good thing is, if you now change the output to the Spotify thumbnail, yeah, but on the, yeah, but there's no text in here. So I only have these two outputs selected. So let me now switch back to the file to make some changes to the file itself.
as a small marketing department within Chili Publish, it's kind of cool to have all of the projects and assets up online in the cloud like that, with the My Projects like you just showed us, right? Because that sort of, I mean, basically means like one of the problems I was having was I was working very locally on my machine. Luca couldn't see what
Yeah.
I was doing. The assets were then on my machine. I then needed to push them into a file system somewhere. But here it's like it's almost everything that anybody doing self-service would need is actually right there in the cloud for them to work with, right?
Yeah, indeed. And maybe I or we take it for granted that you're totally right. Chili GraFx is a cloud platform where
Yeah.
we put all the assets together, or you can connect to external asset systems. You have the templates all in the cloud. So when Lucas says, hey, Pat, can you work on this file? The file is already available in the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Cool. Okay.
And that is indeed where my projects and these templates live on the platform in the clouds, and they can start from there. And to show a little bit more behind the scenes, again, we're now in the template designer workspace where the template designers can add all these smart things into a template.
Right.
One of these are variables. For example, I created a list variable called output. And for
Okay.
now, output has two options. And these options relate to the names of the layout. So if I add one, just to show you the results, and say this is the YouTube thumbnail,
Okay.
the moment I add it now as a list, and of course I will add all outputs here
Right.
and save the file again. And then Luca, the next time he comes to the platform and starts a new project for the next template, he will have the availability to also see the YouTube channel, because the YouTube thumbnail, because it was already available,
Yeah.
and you can now switch. And what we just did is indeed you're now senior content writer. We set to save that to make that to a copywriter.
Right.
And that is now changed on all the other layouts, although there might be subtle differences, but you see that all the changes have been flowing through to all the other designs.
So this is really interesting because admittedly, okay, so in Illustrator I might have been able to wrangle something with, I think they're called symbols, but this is much better because it's really, they're like variables. It's like a piece of text, like
Yep,
my
indeed.
name and my job, and on any one of these layouts that we want it to appear, it'll automatically update
Yep.
if you change it in the sidebar. And if Luca wanted to, he could also change your headshot, or I mean, just you don't need to show up. And just variables aren't just text, right? They're images and everything as well.
Yeah, the template designer has created two what we call placeholders or variables, and in this case, it's image variables. So if I update there, and this one has design, and I'm again looking behind the scenes here as a template designer, you won't see all this parameters on the front end side. So as a consumer, look, I wouldn't see this. What a template designer did is said, this picture for the host, you should look it up in the assets in CHILIpulse/people, because that's where we store all the headshots of the people. So if I remove it here and then select another headshot, you will see that we have all the other headshots available from the previous episodes. There we go. But of course, I'll reselect myself again because this one is for us. But you see, you're in there, Patrick is in there, Didier is in there. So let's select this one. And if I hide my panel, then you will see that my picture is in there, and that picture has been flowing through on all the other templates again.
And so as we build this over time, so we're on CHILIpulse 20, let's say between 20 and 40, we're going to have a lot more images. We will, all of that media will be stored somewhere accessible online as well. For it can always be reached whenever we want. Let's say we want to. Let's say, I don't know, for example, Patrick, the other Patrick there, comes back and does another episode. We can go
Yeah,
back and that image and everything, right? So we've got to.
we can come back, and that is exactly in the platform where we have the graphics media. And as you see here, I'm now seeing graphics media, and there's one folder called CHILIpulse, and there we have brand material, which are all the design elements of the template. And we also have a folder called people, which holds all these
Those same
headshots.
images we just saw. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, indeed.
While you're there, Bram, maybe you're coming back to this in a second, right? But underneath that M for media, I see an F. Is
For
that font?
fonts.
This is fonts,
Yeah,
okay, right?
indeed, this is fonts. And this is a central repository to store your fonts that you will be using in the smart templates.
Right.
Of course, like you mentioned, will need a license for the fonts to be able to use them. But we use two that we have, and that is the Satoshi font and also the Bitter font. So first step was to make them available here in the fonts application.
Yeah.
Once it's available there, then it's up to the template designer again in the template designer workspace, where I'm now to go to the style kits panel and say, in my fonts, these are the two ones, Bitter and Satoshi, that I have now added, so that these are now available in my templates, because these are the two that I will use in my layouts and in my designs.
This is great. So we have layouts, we have design tools, we have text with text variables, we have the ability to output from multiple layouts, and now we can even use our own fonts. This is like a full, what old people like me call a DTP package, only it's in the cloud, right?
The only part of the desktop is that your browser is on the desktop, but all the rest is in the cloud.
Right. Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. So let's go back to what Luca now can do is Luca can go into the CHILIpulse project, start a project. I will just save it to be sure. Start my project. And again, I'll go to my YouTube output. Yeah, we'll have to fill in the title. What we said is scale by design, and then a subtitle that we're still working on, but that is okay. I will make you the I like the content writer a bit more, but I don't know how you feel with it.
To be honest, that's my preferred title. Yeah, copy tends to be just for anybody. Like copy tends to be sort of more for pushing a sale. Content is more building trust about a product.
Indeed.
So I
Yeah.
think more content. Yeah.
And so basically, and that's another level of inception, because
Mm-hmm.
probably Luca will have reached out to you to help to write this content, to
Yeah.
get the title right. So
Mm-hmm.
when Luca then gets your content, your copy, to put it in here, then Luca is able to download this, for example, as a PNG file, because that is exactly what he needs as the thumbnail. And with all the elements that he changed, he can now get that.
Uh-huh.
And same thing for the Spotify thumbnail with the two shots of us. Also download the PNG, download it, and he's good to go. And so there's no fighting with Illustrator anymore.
That's fascinating. Now, one other question then. So if let's say it wasn't Luca, but it was somebody else who was actually responsible within the marketing department, 'cause this
Hmm.
is the case, for actually uploading each of these images to their different destinations. Again, they can have a login. They can come in and just do the exp. Can we limit what they can do so that maybe they can
Yeah,
just come and grab the images, or how does that work?
indeed. There's a few levels of going into the system. First of all, there's the environments. Means we were now working in a demo environment. Secondly, of course, there's user management. Every colleague of us, every
Right.
coworker has a login. And then you can put people into groups and say this group of people can have access to these and these environments and also can act as this role, because there will be people that have the ability to design
Right.
templates, and there will be people that only need access to maybe my projects, just to consume the templates, to go in there, so that indeed maybe it's not Luca, it's somebody else another time can go in there, go to CHILIpulse and consume that template. So indeed you can configure how people can see this.
Great.
That was the whole purpose of explaining this to the listeners and the viewers, that we wanted to help everybody get rid of the boring parts, because like you said in the beginning, it's a bit frustrating when you have to do a lot of manual work in something that is should be easy to automate, and that's exactly what we do.
Right. Well, exactly. And I think so. You're automating the tedious parts of the graphic production by doing this.
Yeah.
You're also, I think, for a modern workflow, able to designate roles that are more appropriate. For example, Luca has the brief, right? He has the images. He doesn't need me to be involved in this at this level, right? To be making, 6 variants, outputting them, and then emailing them to him. And in fact, he can go and do it. Give me a shout. I can go in and have a look at the copy and say, "Hey, that's cool, but maybe there's a comma missing here or whatever." And then we can hand off to somebody else to then take the images and run with them. I mean, so I think from a human perspective as well as a creative automation perspective, we've improved the workflow on two levels, if you like. So nice, yeah.
We'll still have to discuss the title of this one, but I guess the people that are now listening will see the end results. But at least people that are listening now know where all the graphics and the content comes from.
Brilliant. So yeah, when they see this on LinkedIn or on the icon on Spotify or whatever it is, yeah,
Yeah,
what's the expression? We'll be eating our own dog food, yeah.
yeah, we have eaten our own dog food,
Yeah, fantastic, huh?
but it was great having you on the episodes and walking us through this story. And I hoped we could alleviate a bit of your frustration on that part. And
Well, it was a pleasure to be here, and also I'm feeling kind of optimistic about maybe getting some of the massive backlog of other stuff I have to do done now, because I won't have to do this anymore. So thank you for that, Bram. And yeah,
happy to help out, and hope to see you soon.
yeah, okay, all the best. Bye.
All right, bye bye.